Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. I'm Meteorologist Joe Fitzwater. We're within about 24 hours of this winter storm system making its way into the area now. And with that being said, a lot of details have come into focus that I thought I would share with you here this morning. Now, the National Weather Service overnight did issue a winter storm warning for the entire area, and that's what you see in the pink here. And again, this includes every county in our region. So before we really start diving into the metrics, as far as impacts are concerned, we are going to have a slick commute, a slick drive Saturday morning for sure. It doesn't matter where you're located. The roadways will likely be pretty slushy, pretty slick here for a few hours during the morning. I do think by the afternoon that the main roadways will probably be okay, but with accumulating snow in the forecast, and some brief heavy snow in the area, it's going to make for some very difficult travel here for a brief period of time during the morning hours of your Saturday. So with that being said, let's kind of dive into what's going on here. Now, there's a couple things that I want you to pay attention to, and the first thing that we're going to look at actually is when we're going to be seeing those temperatures drop below freezing. So I'm actually on our Storm Tracker page on the WWKTV.com website, and I want you to pay attention to these temperatures. And this is why I've been kind of leaning toward the underside of some of these snowfall totals, and I've got some more reasoning behind this still. So I'm still kind of thinking that 2 to 4 inch range. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us see closer to 4 inches. But with that being said, I think the lower side of the snowfall total is going to be the way to go here, and I'm going to explain why here. Look at these temperatures. So first off, this afternoon, we're going to get into the 60s today. So ground temperatures are going to be very warm here, not only this afternoon, but through this evening. At 6 o'clock, it's going to be 59 degrees. Now, those temperatures are going to start to drop pretty quickly here once we get after dark. So you can see by 9 o'clock, we're at 50 degrees. 10 o'clock, we're at 47 degrees. 44 degrees at 11. Even at midnight, the air temperature is going to be 41 degrees. So it's going to be well above freezing here for quite some time here. In fact, it's going to take a while to drop below freezing. It's going to be about 4 a.m., according to our web app, before we drop to about 31, below freezing at 31 degrees at 4 a.m. So that's important to keep in mind here, because some of the data that I'm going to show you is going to be insinuating that that drop takes place a bit sooner. So again, that's kind of the idea here. And again, models tend to underplay how long it takes for temperatures to drop below freezing. And I think this could be a problem here, at least a couple hours difference, which will overall cut some of those totals. So let's take a look here. Now, I've got this. This is the high-res NAM model. So this is the North American model. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And this is going to be at 11 p.m. So this is 11 p.m. tonight, and you can see we've got the purples here. This is showing some very heavy snow across the Scioto River Valley at 11 p.m. But it's all rain in Huntington still. It's all rain in Charleston. Now I'm going to start to put this into motion here, and watch what happens. So this is going to be at midnight, and you can see that we're already seeing the snow transitioning across much of the region here on this model at midnight. And then this is at 1 a.m. Now, this is important to consider because at 1 a.m., we've got temperatures still in the upper 30s. And though it might come down as some snow, this is all going to melt when it reaches the surface. None of this is probably going to accumulate at first here at the ground. We're going to have to get those temperatures down to around 33, 34 degrees before we really even start to talk about accumulating. And that's just because the rate of the snow falling should be enough to counter some of the melting. But a lot of melting is going to be taking place here with the snow at first. Now, once we get past, let's say around 4 o'clock in the morning, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, we're really going to start to see things deteriorate as far as road conditions are concerned. And that's where we'll have those really slick conditions taking place. And you can see here, this is at 5 a.m. And where you see the purples, that's where we've got some decent snow falling across the area. Now, it will lighten in intensity once we get around 6, 7 o'clock. And then we'll just be looking at some squalls as we head toward the afternoon, primarily over the mountains. Now, there's a couple of other things that I want to share with you to kind of go along with this. And this is something we haven't really talked about a whole lot here, but these are some of the snowfall totals that the different models are showing. But in these types of circumstances, there's actually a slightly better metric that we can use to determine how much snow accumulates, and that's called snow depth. So again, I wanted to show these values just to kind of show you the differences in comparison. So, for example, the European model, it's got about 6 inches of snow falling in the Canal Valley by Sunday morning. The GFS has been aggressive from the start, and it's got 6, 7, 8 inches of snow. The high res has got about 4 inches of snow. The North American model has about 5 inches of snow. And then the Weather Service blended models has about 5 inches. But there is a better metric that we can use to show this, and it's called snow depth. And what it does is it does take melting into consideration. And when you take that melting into consideration, you start to see these values begin to drop. And that's where we're looking at that 2 to 4 inch range across much of the region. The European model showing that 2 to 4 inch range here across most of the region. The Canadian model showing that 2 to 4 inch range. Now, the GFS is still going to be a little aggressive because it's been on the high side, but even it is showing no more than 5 inches of snow here across the area. And then the North American model is even a little lighter. It's generally in that 1 to 3 inch range. And then there's the 3 kilometer, the high res, that's showing that 2 to 4 inch range. So, again, I think melting is going to have a lot to do with this. And we'll look at some of the other things that we can look at, including temperature. So this is at 12Z. By 7 a.m., we'll definitely be below freezing. Let's see what we're looking at 1 a.m. So the GFS is a little colder at 33 degrees, and the European looks like it's pretty comparable. I'm sorry, the GFS is at 34, so we're still above freezing here, even on these models at 1 a.m. The European's at 33 degrees. The high res is at 37, and the North American's at 34. So, again, it's going to take some time for the snow to start to stick here across the region. Now, again, once it starts sticking, we're really going to be seeing conditions begin to deteriorate here across the region, and we will have some slick conditions. I mean, 2 to 4 inches of snow is nothing to laugh at. We'll certainly have some slick travel, and I don't recommend being on the roads, let's say, between around 4 o'clock in the morning and probably around noontime to allow crews to get out there and get those roadways clear. But I think by the afternoon, the main roadways will have improved quite a bit. We'll also have that radiation kind of helping out just a bit. We will have the snow squalls around as we head into the afternoon, much like what we've had with some of the other winter storms that we've had across the tri-state this season. And we're only slightly below average in snowfall so far this year. So with that being said, I think we've got a good shot at getting close to average here for the season, as we're just a little under 30 inches for the year. Now, wanted to show the Schref plumes once again. We've been showing that each episode that we've had of this week. And it's kind of bullseyed on 5 inches. But again, that doesn't really take melting into consideration. And if you notice, there's quite a bit of grouping here between 3 and 5 inches. So you take a little bit of that out due to melting, and I think that's going to put us right into the sweet spot of 2 to 4 inches. So again, the impacts are still going to be significant. We're not looking at 8 to 10 inches of snow, but 2 to 4 inches of snow is still going to be enough to cause some problems for sure here across the tri-state. A couple other things that we can look at here. Again, I wanted to show the setup. This is where we're at this morning. That area of low pressure is heading into, is in the Texarkana area, going to be working its way up to the north and to the east here. So as we head toward Friday afternoon, it works its way into Louisiana. We get toward Friday night, and here we are with that area of low pressure in Mississippi. We get toward 1 a.m., and again, it's still rain across most of West Virginia. We're seeing that transition taking place across southern Ohio, but it's really once the second low starts to work its way up, that's what's going to allow that cold air along with this area of high pressure to work itself in, and that's when we'll have that heavy snow here briefly during the morning hours of your Saturday before we see things really start to clear out and just have a few snow bands as we head into the afternoon. So again, across the area, we're looking, I still think it's a good bet that the West Virginia mountains will likely see a few inches of snow, especially with that snow banding taking place. So places like Webster Springs, the Richwood area, over toward the Snowshoot, easily probably 6 inches of snow in those areas when you combine the upslope to go along with the snow itself with the storm system. But I think once you get down into the lowlands, I still think 2 to 4 inches is probably going to be a pretty good bet. That's not to say that 1 or 2 spots might not see 5 inches, but I think the majority of us, once you take the melting into consideration, we're going to be looking at around 2 to 4 inches of snow to go along with some very slick travel. And again, these values have been a little bit overdone. I think this website might be acting a little bit broken. Something's up here. I was trying to get this to load earlier, and it's not showing. They've still been pretty aggressive on some of the snowfall. I mean, they're giving a good 60% chance of reaching 4 inches of snow, and I think that's a little on the high side. But nonetheless, everybody's going to have a little bit of a different thought, and they're no different. But again, that winter storm warning continuing here for our entire area. That's going to be tonight through Saturday, primarily during the morning on Saturday, basically from about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to around noontime here across the area. So again, we can kind of show some of those snow depth values once again. That's why I keep thinking those values are going to be down, is when you take those the melting into consideration. That's going to lower those totals just a bit here. So I still think 2 to 4 inches is going to be a good bet here across most of the region. Excuse me. That's not to say, again, that we couldn't have a couple of spots that see 5 inches in the lowlands. But I think the majority of us will be in that 2 to 4 inch ballpark. And then, again, the West Virginia mountains, I think the GFS is doing a good job of showing the higher snowfall totals with the upslope that's going to be taking place here as we head into the afternoon. So that's kind of the update on what I'm thinking here. Again, things are going to start deteriorating really quickly during the early morning hours of Saturday. It'll even be during the late Friday night time frame, probably across southern Ohio and northeastern parts of Kentucky. But for most of West Virginia and southeastern Kentucky, it'll be after midnight before we really see conditions begin to deteriorate. And once they do deteriorate, those roadways are probably not going to be in great shape here for a few hours until crews are going to be able to get on top of that. The heavy snow will be wrapping up across the region by around, let's say, 7 a.m., and then we'll have some lingering snow showers around, plus the snow bands that'll be possible as we head into the afternoon. So that's kind of a wrap on what's going on. I hope this video was helpful. Like doing these videos just to try to give some extra insight into what goes into the forecast. But again, when the snowstorm does hit here tonight into tomorrow, if you can, send some photos over to my Facebook page, Joe Fitzwater Meteorologist, and we'll try to get some of those on air. That'd be great. I love seeing some of you guys' photos. Also, if you do have any additional questions, feel free to comment me here on this YouTube page, or you can message or comment on my Facebook page, which is Joe Fitzwater Meteorologist, or on my Twitter page, which is @MeteoJoe. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy what could be the last punch of winter, as we're going to have those temperatures in the 70s next week. And, of course, enjoy your weekend.